I mean, it looks like it's recording me, so I'm gonna assume it's recording me. Okay, this is my year in nerd culture films. I love Thunderbolts. I love Captain America. I love Jurassic Park, Jurassic World. I mean, Jurassic Park is one of those things where I just will always love just because I love dinosaurs. I have a master's in paleobiology. Side note, so that is just an automatic thing for me. I love cars, so F1. I am an F1 fan. Have been to F1 before, and I love everything about it. That movie is still my favorite movie of the year. And I loved Superman because I'm a Superman fan, a huge Superman fan, and I'm also a huge Fantastic Four fan. And I loved the Fantastic Four film. Spoiler: if Superman was a perfect superhero comic movie to me, Fantastic Four is a perfect sci-fi comic movie to me. There's clearly a lot of love for the source material and these characters. The changes that were made were warranted, and the film overall was well paced. Just to get it out there, I know a lot of people are tired of Pedro Pascal, but to me, this is his perfect role. I just watched him in Materialist and in The Last of Us, and most recently, and his acting in those, while great, didn't carry this sort of gravity. It's hard to find the words right now, but you feel the weight in his shoulders in this film. And it's not just because the character he's playing is a brilliant mind that thinks he can solve everything. There's something else. And there was a small line in the film where it all made sense as to who he was. And this is an important fact for me because this is the reason why I love Reed in the comics. And the line in this scene, it was the scene where he was holding Franklin and tells him he made this machine to test if he has any problems because he's worried. He worries that he's going to carry something. He's going to carry the same problems he has. Then he says, he's always had that problem. It, it was something along those lines. He's always had those problems. He wasn't talking about these cosmic powers, this cosmic DNA problems. Not really. Reed knows that there's something wrong with him, and he's afraid for his son to carry that on. That line hit me more than you'll even ever know. As much as he can show he's fine, but there's a deeper, intense loneliness that he has. Reed being autistic isn't something new, but it was never really confirmed in comics or any other media for that matter. However, his characteristics are always written in that way, whether writers mean to or not. He's automatically associated with these specific traits. And I think I know I've always loved Reed because of that. It's just made him a little bit more relatable to me. Sue in this movie is not this dim damsel in distress. She hasn't been in that character in a long time in the comics, thanks in part to John Burns' run in the 80s and so forth on. She's very clearly the heart and inspiration for a lot of what happens in the whole world. And it makes sense. Because of her, the world is much more connected. Her warmth makes her this perfect world diplomat. So much so that even some of the main villains, like the Mole Man, signs a treaty and ends up helping the people of New York when Galactus is about to land. All the positive world things is because of Sue in this. And Vanessa Kirby, which is so fun that she shares the exact same last name as the creator of the Fantastic Four, Jack Kirby. Vanessa Kirby delivers this emotional performance. She's a new mother who will do whatever she can to protect her child, and it's not something to be taken lightly. It's established in the very beginning of the movie that Reed and Sue have been trying for years, up to a point that they've accepted that maybe it's just not meant for them. The baby's literally a cosmic miracle, which weighs even more when you think of what's asked from her. Any mother, any good mother would do what she can to protect their child, but against an entity older than the universe itself, a normal person would hit their limit. It would be painful, but one baby for the world is logical. But that's what makes Sue so much stronger than any normal person. Sure, she has powers, but even at the words of her husband, when it sounds like Reed, the smartest man in the world, was considering it as an option. She didn't budge, not for one moment. That is the kind of inner strength that I loved about Vanessa Kirby's interpretation of this film. In this film, Ben in this was a quiet, soft support system for all of them. He knows all of them better than they can even imagine, which is fitting for a man made of rocks. He knew Sue was pregnant without them even mentioning it because of context clues and knowing them intimately. You only have to call his name once, and he knows what you need, and he'll drop whatever he's doing at that moment to do exactly what you're asking for without you even saying. There was a scene in this movie where they're on a ship and they're being chased and Sue's giving birth. Reed only had to say Ben, and he knew it was time to help usher in Franklin. He was the one that cut the umbilical cord. It's these little details. That's the one thing I love about this movie, about this version of The Thing. He does all the soft actions. He's not just the one that punches things and breaks things. He's sensitive. Like, he's the one that helps me. He's the one that cooks dinner. Doesn't break a plate, doesn't break a spoon. He's the one that buys cookies and plates them in like a delicate fashion, taking these pieces of cookie that he could break easily. He's controlled, which after 4 years, you would assume would happen. Side note, I love that these films are not doing any type of origin story and taking place, they're all taking place years after they've started. Pattinson's Batman takes place 2 years after his arrival. Superman takes place 3 years after his arrival. And in this film, this takes place 4 years after their arrival. I much prefer the starting point like this. It kind of reminds me of those old superhero cartoons back in the day, like Justice League Unlimited, Batman, the animated series, and Superman, the animated series. The first seasons were never any type of origin story. They already exist and you accept them for it. Anyway, back to the thing. Eben Moss-Bachrach has a way to deliver his lines in this inner strength. There's a way he does it. I know a lot of people wanted him to have that gruff, rocky voice, but I never agreed to that assumption that he was like that in the comics. In the books, his eyes are the main physical highlight to sort of anchor him to his old self. He even has that nickname, Blue Eyes. It's that one thing. It's that one thing that didn't change. And I always thought, why would his voice change? These external changes shouldn't reflect any of the internal changes. It shouldn't reflect anything internally. If they modulated his voice to somehow feel, I don't know. I just feel like it would have taken away from that soft, supportive characteristic that Eben so brilliantly gives. Johnny Storm in this was a welcome change. He wasn't that overtly immature and impulsive character that he's often shown. Yeah, he was impulsive in this, but it's only because he believes in what he has to do, and no one's gonna give him the benefit. No one's gonna believe in him to do it, so he's just gonna have to do it himself. Whenever he's shown to be that kind of dim character, you assume that he's kind of stupid, obviously. And I never liked that characteristic because he's an astronaut. Even if your brother-in-law is Reed Richards, he has to have some sort of benefit, some sort of problem-solving skills. Not to mention he's around the smartest people in the world. He can't be played as stupid all the time. Like he just can't. And that's exactly what they do here. And I have so much respect for that. I think one of the reasons why they cast Joseph Quinn is because he has this way to portray characters that are underestimated and then rises against that very assumption against him. Characters that simply aren't heard. And that's exactly what this Johnny is. It's clear in his body language. It's filled with it. His mannerisms is a mixture of like this confident, cocky kind of character, but he has this quiet unassuredness and this desperation to be heard. Everything he brings is put down. He can't always successfully verbally explain what he's feeling, and I think that's one of the reasons why people assume he's dumb. It's only to Sue that he can get his actual point across. He has to schedule this meeting with Reed at 2:15 p.m. He has notes on the spacesuit. He takes these drawings over to Reed that was made years ago and hands it to Reed, with the notes. And the first thing Reed does is simply say he's busy, and he literally slaps it at the bottom of the chalkboard. So it's physically and mentally at the bottom of Reed's list. The recordings of this alien life, there's 28 recordings. Reed dismisses them and hands them to Johnny and says, knock yourself out. All of these things that are bottom of the list to Reed is basically Johnny's to keep. So when Johnny has enough of this sentence to be able to figure out the alien language, he doesn't even bother bringing it to Reed. Sue even says Reed can figure out an algorithm. But in Johnny's words, Reed's brain is occupied. And by this point, you kind of already assume he's just going to put it at the bottom of the to-do list anyway. And honestly, it was good because Reed actually did need to. That was the part of the scene where Reed had that one-on-one with Franklin, and you get to explore more of who Reed was. So it was definitely needed for a character type of thing. And anyway, so then the surfer shows up, breaks all the teleporter stations around the world, and before she gets to the one in New York, he's able to stop her by reminding her who she is, by talking to her in her language. And then by this point, he's not hitting on her. He's reminding her painfully what she's been doing and what she's done to all of these worlds that she's helped destroy. This subplot of Johnny being able to do that was extremely refreshing to see. It gave him a point rather than just being a hothead that can light things on fire. I love that their relationships in this film, I love that their relationships were past the quarrels. It's been 4 years now. Ben in the comics used to blame Reed. Ben and Johnny in the comics also used to have this really annoying dynamic where they're constantly at each other's throats, but we're all past that now. We're watching these people that have grown past that, and I love that. Reed will continue to blame himself, and I get that. But now he doesn't have Ben berating him. Like, you have Ben comforting him instead. These characters actually show that they are a family and that they care about each other. And while their powers kind of make them dysfunctional, they're far from it. They're all actually very functional, which happens when you grow and you're communicating. I love that. I love being able to show that instead. Anyway, it's revealed that the child has the power cosmic, which is a word that I, in my wildest dreams, never thought I'd even say, referencing in a live action film. Galactus forces this birth to begin so he can take the child. This is when they're on this ship. This entire sequence was entirely heart-raising. They're trying to escape this giant-ass ship while being attacked by the Silver Surfer, and Galactus is trying to grab them. And this leads to and I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, a faster than light speed chase through a wormhole. My inner child was very giddy during this entire sequence. I mean, this entire sequence was such a whirlwind because at the end of that chase, you get to this black hole so the surfer can get sucked in. Reed has to ask Sue to make the ship invisible for 30 seconds, and he has to do that. She has to do this in between contractions. Then for her to be able to give birth, they need the gravity, but they're in space. So the only source of gravity is this black hole, which is slowly breaking their ship, and they have to use that gravity to slingshot. But they have to get that ship to get to 0.88 miles, the 0.88 times the speed of light. So you have these three things happening at the same time. The ship is breaking because of the black hole. Sue's needing that gravity from the black hole to give birth, and they have to get to 88 times the speed of light, which I feel like 0.88, that it has to be a reference to Back to the Future, right? Like 88 miles per hour. Anyway, that entire thing scene was so intense. That was probably the most intense thing I've ever seen this year. I mean, I felt like I was giving birth. And that's something to say about the action set pieces in this. They all worked for the story. None of it had any fat. It wasn't just punching and hitting for no reason. This is what I loved about the pacing. Every scene establishes something, and they made the movie flow quickly. That's what made the movie flow quickly to me. Maybe a little too quickly, but unlike Superman, where I thought needed more time, this was perfect. The story wasn't overly complex, and it didn't need to be. It was about the journey that these characters had to go through to get to the solution. And it was the perfect 2-hour ride. In Superman, he was a beloved character that basically got his ass kicked throughout the entire movie, and the world turned on him for a moment, and this movie was kind of the same. They couldn't find a solution, and things just kept happening. The world turned on him for just a moment, and they came together. There are so many weird similarities, down to the fact that in both films, they had to use a black hole to stave off a major threat. And both those characters, we know they're not dead because, I mean, as the audience, we know they're going to be used in the future. Superman was a superhero comic book movie about a man that, despite the world around him, chooses to be a force for good. The Fantastic Four is a sci-fi comic book movie that shows us a world where even if you don't see eye to eye, you can work together peacefully for the betterment of for Earth kind. Did I like this better than Superman? Slightly. Primarily for the fact that it had more elements that I enjoy. That's not to take away anything from Superman. There's room in my heart for both. I mean, there's room in my heart for every good movie that I could see, that I can engulf. That movie, Superman, needed to be exactly what it needed to be. And this movie needed to be exactly what it needed to be. So I give this movie a Fantastic 4 out of 4.